Good day, everyone. My name is Marlon John, and I'm here to go over with you the New York State disclosure form for buyers and sellers, otherwise known as the agency disclosure. This form is a notice or disclosure just to inform our clients, our customers, in which capacity we are operating. As real estate salespersons, real estate agents, we can operate in many different capacities. We can operate representing, having a fiduciary fidelity, loyalty to the seller or the broker or the buyer or both dual agency, meaning broker and buyer or seller and buyer. So this form is basically explaining or giving an explanation of each of these agencies: seller's agent, buyer's agent, broker's agent, and dual agent. I hope all of you have taken time to read this. If you haven't, please take a moment to go this over, read this. It gets even more complex with designated sales agent, where you have one firm, one brokerage representing both buyer and seller with separate agents within that brokerage. So filling out the form, there's two sides, or there's two pages. First page explains, second page is where you would fill out the information. So it says print licensee. So let's just go through this. You would fill out your name, you the agent will fill out your name here. And then on the as it says, the form was provided to me by Marlon John, and you would put your agency or your brokerage or the firm that you are affiliated with or are working under. Okay, so ABC brokerage. Okay. Now, which capacity or in which form are you working? Are you a seller's agent? So you're working with the seller and you're representing the seller. You would check here and you would check there. If you were representing a buyer, you would have buyer's agent and buyer's agent. Or you can be representing the buyer working as a broker's agent, and vice versa on the seller side. Or you could also be a dual agent. If you are, or in many cases, the agency can change in midstream as you're working with a client slash customer. Your agency can change sometimes. Perhaps you're working as a buyer's agent, you have a representation, or you have an established relationship where you're working as a buyer's agent, but you now have a listing that your buyer, which is your client, is now interested in, and you're representing the seller. You will then now have to present the form again explaining the change of agency, either dual agent, or you're now just representing the seller's agent, and you're for the purpose of this particular transaction, you will be operating as the seller's agent, and your buyer slash client will now become your customer. Or you could also have designated agent within your brokerage, where obviously your broker or manager in your office would designate another agent to represent the buyer as a buyer, as you're representing the seller, your client. So take a moment, familiarize yourself with the different agencies, how they work, and filling out the forms in a proper manner. Okay. Now here it says if dual agency with a designated sales agent is indicated above, you have to put the agent that is appointed to represent buyer, okay, and is appointed to represent the seller if it's the seller down here. Then you would fill out your client slash customer information. So Mary Jones, and acknowledge receipt. And she happens to be a buyer and or seller, and you would have him or her fill out the information, meaning the date and their signature at the bottom. Their signature is purely to signify consent or signifying they did receive this document, they were notified, and they understand. It's nowhere binding, it's not holding them to anything. They're not contractually obligated to anything, as this clearly state this is not a contract. This is purely to give notice or disclose. And we have to present this because for each infraction, if I'm not mistaken, it's a $2,000 fine for each one not presented. That concludes how we fill out the agency disclosure form.